Cabba was up late playing cards. I might just be able to get out of our room this morning without waking her. She's been so upset the last few days. I really think she needs to rest. That awful Willis woman from the radio got under her skin. She's not alone, though. Lots more people around town seem riled. Miss Wilson had a bad run-in with some boys from across town yesterday. I've never seen her so upset before. They tossed her groceries into the street, and poor Mr. McGruder hasn't slept right since he found that nasty rope in his car. That radio woman just doesn't let up, though. But I'm not going to let her keep me blue. The best way to deal with all this gloom is to keep going, no matter what. I have a lot to get done today, and I'm getting started right away.
So can I narrate again?
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. Did you have anything else?
Hey, you bothering my girl?
Oh god.
Just give us some privacy, yeah?
With Caulifla now awake, Kale was sure her morning would be delayed. But when they were finally ready, Kale was stopped from getting dressed yet again by Caulifla as she lit a cigar while laying in bed.
Hey, there's something I've been wanting to ask you. I just, need to grab something first.
Kale? You said for me to come get you, and, well, it's been an hour.
I'm sorry. It's just I'm already running behind.
That's fine, it'll keep. Knock 'em dead, doll.
At long last, Kale was able to leave her apartment. She had a lot to do around the neighborhood and needed to make up time fast. Luckily, Cabba was tagging along, curious as to what she spent her days doing. Cabba helped water her plants on top of the reaping bar's roof. The Green Lantern ring created an aqueduct that took care of the entire terrace filled with plants, vegetables, and flowers. Initially, Kale just had a few houseplants in different rooms of the apartment, but as Caulifla's influence grew in New York, more and more people kept gifting Kale different plants, some as thanks for helping deal with various situations around the neighborhood, others as attempts to get back on the Saiyans' good side after a bad brawl. Caulifla often complained that there were too many, but Kale just couldn't bear to part with any of them, though even Caulifla had a soft spot for a Venus flytrap.
That ring sure is nifty. Wish I had one just like it. Thanks so much for helping.
Haha, no problem.
With the plants taken care of, it was finally time to start the day's errands. While Caulifla had taken over the different groups littering New York, she didn't quite have the patience to deal with what that entailed. The gangster was more into the fighting and partying side of things. Kale was the brains running the day-to-day of the operation. And while this would be too much for most, Kale's unique way of running things kept just about everybody happy. The few it didn't, well, Caulifla mostly dealt with them. The Green Lantern was curious to see how Kale ran things. He didn't know much about Earth, and was unaware that the two Saiyans were considered criminals. Their first stop was to go check on the old folks in their central neighborhood. Kale always made sure they were stocked up on groceries, and that their apartments were in good shape. Today, Mr. Kurtzberg had a leak in his roof. He'd apparently told the building super, Mr. Lee, about it already, but nothing was being done. So Kale went directly to his landlord to make sure the problem would get fixed. Many similar events like this would happen, and before they knew it, lunchtime was upon them. The two Saiyans stepped into a cozy buffet restaurant run by a Mexican family. Kale had helped the Ramos family get a start when they first moved into town. She also helped them get a good deal on food supplies. That was mostly because she felt bad. This was one of Caulifla's favourite places, and it seemed that any time the girls went out there, they ended up cleaning out the kitchen.
Who's your friend?
Cabba, he's, visiting from back home.
I think your food may be poisoned. It's attacking my mouth with a burning sensation.
It's called spicy. Takes some getting used to.
After their lunch, the two stopped in on a local grocery store. Kale wanted to check on the staff since they'd made some complaints about the owner in the past. Everything seemed to be going smoothly now though. Just as they were about to leave, Cabba pointed out a young boy sneaking a candy bar into his pocket, before ducking out the front door. At first, Cabba prepared to chase him down, but Kale put her hand on his shoulder and shook her head. She took some money for the candy bar out of her purse and laid it on the counter before slowly leaving the shop herself. Once on the street, she spotted the boy just as he was about to turn a corner. Kale began to follow, and Cabba did his best to keep up. The Saiyans followed the boy all the way to his apartment building, with him none the wiser. This particular building was on the outskirts of Caulifla's old territory, but with Lucky Luciano dead, it was now under her influence. Kale wanted to approach the tenants with kindness. She had seen some of the other neighborhood kids steal before. It was usually because they were either bored and needed something else to occupy their time, or because there was something deeper going on at home. Growing up on the streets of Sadala herself, she took a special interest in those cases.
If the kid stole, he should have to pay for it, not you.
Shoplifting isn't the problem. I remember a while back 2 boys from around the block, Jerry and Joey, got into some trouble. Silly kids was all. I sat down with their mothers and we took care of it. They're doing good now, making some funny bucks and printing them in the Daily Chronicle. I'm sure this will work out the same way.
Kale knocked on the door of the boy's apartment, to be greeted with a sight she was hoping not to see. Kale really did wish the kid was just bored and acting out. That would have been easy to deal with. The mother standing in the doorway with the black eye, however, that would be difficult. The meek Saiyan talked her way into the apartment relatively easy. Her unassuming and reserved demeanour tended to put people at ease. When Kale first explained why she'd shown up at this woman's door, the mother was furious. She immediately stood and grabbed a belt. But Kale was able to talk her down.
I'm certain you don't need to do that. He's just acting out. I hate to ask, but could it possibly have something to do with that shiner you're covering up with makeup?
Oh, no, it was just an accident. I dropped something in the kitchen is all.
Right. What's your husband's name?
You don't understand. My husband, he's a police officer.
Cabba's jaw dropped at the revelation. Suddenly, all of Caulifla's berating of cops made sense to him. The Saiyans left the small apartment, and Cabba had trouble keeping up with Kale as she hit the street. It took some convincing, but she had a name. Shiva. Kale began to search all over the neighborhood for him. At one point, she even stopped by one of the garages that trafficked car parts for the gang, just to listen in on a stolen police radio. She had to fiddle with the dials for a bit, unfortunately landing on Leslie Willis's station somehow. Kale knew she shouldn't listen, that she would just keep her focus and continue scrolling. But it was always so hard to stop. Willis always seemed to be on when Kale was trying to listen to something. Her station had such a good signal that she could often scarcely tune into anything else. But what more, Willis always seemed to be talking about her. Well, her and Caulifla.
And as if the criminals warring in your streets isn't bad enough, America, they're doing far worse. Let me tell you, things are far from pretty here on the home front. These thugs aren't only killing each other and innocent women and children in public. No, that's not enough. These migrants are undermining the very lifeblood of our great nation. Corruption of the innocent folks. Encouraging delinquency in the youth of America. Poisoning the future generations with their foreign values, or lack thereof. Who cares if your children lie, skip school, steal? Where this migrant trash comes from, everyone does it. And we all know how well that's worked out for them. I'm sickened to see it, truly. I know it's important to stand united during these difficult times, but how can our president, a man of such feeble constitution, expect us real Americans to stand shoulder to shoulder with such morally inferior immigrants? Next, he'll be asking us to breed with them, pollute the great bloodlines of our people. Well, not me. No, siree.
Kale couldn't listen any longer. She forced herself to change the dial and finally got a lead on Shiva. She and Cabba moved quickly so they wouldn't lose track of him again. They needn't have bothered. They found the policeman exiting a store with a bottle and a brown paper bag on the way back to his car. Before they had a chance to confront him, however, he stumbled back into the shop. Kale knew the owner. Mr. McDuffie had opened up a few years ago, and the girls helped him beat back so-called protectionist gangs after they threatened his son Virgil. They protected him now, and he paid Caulifla with a bottle of brandy once a month. Shiva started screaming at the man, something about not applying his officer discount.
Boy, you can't do math right. You shouldn't be running the till. Cops have a discount, you know. Or are you just not grateful to those of us that protect and serve? Unless you don't want our protection.
At first, Kale attempted to talk to Shiva politely. He brushed her off. Next, she tried to convince him to step outside. That didn't work either. He was very obviously drunk and irate. Cabba's patience, however, ran thin first. He grabbed Shiva's arm and started to pull him out of the shop. Shiva, however, raised his billy club and swung right for Cabba's head. The Green Lantern was prepared to easily subdue him. But faster than his eyes could see, Kale intercepted the billy club.
I've had
In an instant, Shiva was thrown through the shop window, out onto the street. What happened next was a blur. Everything went white for Kale, and flashes of red entered her vision, and the sounds of sirens. She looked up to see a squad of cop cars arriving in front of her. Kale knew she'd made a mistake, but wasn't sure how to proceed. She didn't want to make things worse, so she raised her hands in the air, but she did have to drop Shiva first. Cabba knew to avoid the cops. He'd quickly picked that much up from the little he'd seen. As swiftly as he was able, the Saiyan ran back to the reaping bar and informed Caulifla about what had happened. How Kale had unleashed a wrath like nothing he'd ever seen on the police officer, and how she suddenly surrendered when other cops showed up. Caulifla's temper shot up in an instant. By the time she'd gotten there, about 5 police officers were hanging off her clothes, being dragged along as they tried to stop the gangster. However, once Caulifla saw that Kale was fine, her temper lowered. A tad. Enough for Kale to tell her to calm down and do the rational thing. After all, they had a deal with Amanda Waller. So, it was time to cash in on their side of the arrangement. Caulifla dug Waller's number out from her coat pocket and dialed it. The G-woman picked up immediately.
This had better be important.
Bet your
Oh, the gangster. My time is precious. I'll give you a minute of it. So try not to waste it all with your favorite 4 little words, yes. 55 seconds left.
Listen up. You and I had a deal, right? I don't know about where you come from, but around these parts, when you enter an arrangement with somebody, they're expected to live to their end. Now, we've been doing good work on the dock, keeping the ratsies out of town.
And I've left your operation alone. 40 seconds.
But you see, you haven't. My girl just got pinched. Maybe I'm a bit f***ed up, but it seems to me that she shouldn't be in the slammer if you were living up to your end of the bargain.
Your girl beat up a cop and surrendered. I don't recruit the brightest of the bunch, but how stupid of a gangster do you have to be to not know rule number 1? You never try and kill a cop.
Oh, so you knew?
I know everything.
Well then call up Officer Bacon here and tell him to release my girl. Cause you know what I'll do to you if you don't.
Did you forget who I've squirreled away?
Yeah, your bombshells. You wanna know where you f***ed up? Blackmail ain't the best motivator. I did some digging. I don't think those bombshells are the lapdogs you made them out to be. Word I hear is that your Wonder Woman just went off the rails and busted a bunch of prisoners out of Uncle Sam's Who School out west. The blonde one also went off the radar for who knows how long too. Something tells me that you try throwing those ladies at me, you're more likely to have to deal with all of us together. Now the way I see it, you got 2 options. Talk to Officer Bacon here and get my girl out. Or get ready to replace my wingtips with my newest fave pair of shoes.
This isn't going to go how you think it will. Your girl beat up a cop in broad daylight. People won't be happy to see her get off. Stop talking for once and take some free advice. Keep your head down, don't make a scene, and before you know it, you can start running a whole lot more than some stupid gangs. The boys club doesn't like to see it, but I beat them all to the top. Now I only work for one man, the President of the United States.
Yeah, great. But one boot to lick is still one too many for me. Make the damn call.
After another hour or so of waiting on phone calls to be made and the cops dragging their feet, Kale and Caulifla made it out of the station, along with everyone else currently locked up. That was at Kale's insistence. Hand in hand, the girls walked home, Kale apologizing all the while. Caulifla, however, just smiled at her girlfriend. While she may have wished it could be under different circumstances, telling Waller off felt good. The 2 Saiyans finally got back to the reaping bar late in the evening, only to be greeted by the sound of Leslie Willis broadcasting on the air once again.
Lawlessness. That's what they bring to our shores, folks.
Oh, me. Who left this bitch on again?
I was trying to turn it off, but it just keeps getting louder.
Gonna rip it out the goddamn wall.
Hey, it's been a long night. Try not to get mad. Let me take care of it.
Huh, that's strange. I'm not certain, but it doesn't even look like this radio is on.
Copper, you really
migrants who lives in the bar. Big surprise
Please
there.
don't get mad.
Called the reaping.
We're trying,
Well,
but he's
some off-duty
right.
officers are planning to
It is
dispense
all.
real justice on
Then
this
unplug it.
trash. And I'm here to help spread their message.
Oh, for
Join
sake.
in
Then
and
I'll
help
just
tear
smash
that
the damn
rat
thing
out
in.
of its hole.
Caulifla pushed her way forward and brought her fist down on the radio, crushing it instantly. But instead of the peace and quiet she'd wanted, the capsule jolted with thousands of volts of electricity, the shock shooting her across the bar and knocking her out. Kale and Cabba were stunned, having no idea what just happened, but they didn't have the time to do anything because the windows of the bar began to be smashed in from outside as bricks were tossed into the bar. Cabba managed a quick glance and saw a mob.
What's happening to our home?
More bolts of electricity shot out of the broken radio, the live wire giving way to a stream of energy that formed into a woman in the center of the bar.
It's a crystal knock, a night of broken glass.
Hey all, if you enjoyed this, then be sure to head on over to our Patreon to help support the team. With your help, we can get more actors like the fantastic crew of this episode, some more art, and even some animations. There's a ton of fun perks, including access to episodes early. So thank you all for the support, and as always, take it easy folks.